Oh, it's great. Yeah. So I was born and raised in Reading, went to Shasta High School and Shasta College and on to Cal Poly from there, and graduated with a degree in architecture. And right out of school, moved to Kansas City to work with Populous, who I work for now, and the world's largest public assembly design firm. So this company has taken me all over the world. I've been very fortunate to work on some pretty compelling projects globally, Australia, Asia, the Middle East, Europe, and a lot of work here in North America as well. And I'm just super excited to be able to come back to Reading and offer my services, if they're valuable, to be able to help plan and design and envision what can be done with the city as we look to the future. So I think that, being from Reading, I know it very well. Having grown up on the banks of the Sacramento River, I know it very well. I know all the ups and downs, and I know the goods and bads. And I think that from a design point of view, being able to look authentically at what Reading can be, knowing where we've come from, what we've been, to what we can be in the future, I think I offer a pretty unique perspective in being able to develop a vision for the future of what can be done and staying true to our roots, but really embracing what we want to be in the next 100 years. Well, yeah, and it's funny, we are a global firm, and people know us for projects like Oracle Park in San Francisco, where the Giants play, the Olympics, the Final Four, projects I've worked on in Sydney. People know us for these massive projects, but a substantial amount of our work is actually in small towns, whether they be small conference centers, minor league ballparks, a lot of university work. So I would say the majority of our work is actually in smaller communities that need facilities and need proper planning to host events. And I think what Reading offers is exactly that. I think knowing the site, knowing the Rodeo Grounds, knowing the Civic Center, the improvements that have been made with the Sundial Bridge, the hotel, the museum. I've brought my family there. I've brought my kids there. We love it. It's such an amazing experience. The key is getting people there, and the opportunities are endless. And I think that's where we want to begin. We want to begin by asking the community, what are we missing? What's possible? We're not trying to replace anything. We're not trying to displace anything. When we work with communities, we have a very collaborative and transparent design process where we just show up and listen. And I think that I spend a lot of time in Reading. I visit often. I still have family there. So it's not that we're not paying attention. It's actually that I'm there quite often, which is how I got involved in this opportunity. I've been paying close attention to the investments that have been made in the community, from the McConnell Foundation to K2 development companies to Turtle Bay, folks that have really played the long game and are trying to build Reading to become something beautiful and a wonderful place to live. So I've been involved in the development of those projects, just as a friend, as a colleague, offering advice when I can, offering ideas, making sure things are done to the best of their ability. But I think what's unique about the Civic Center is it's exactly what I do professionally, which is master planning and envisioning public assembly districts. So when we look at the over 50 acres that are immediately adjacent to the Civic Center, I think traditionally that area has been underutilized. And I think the upside is that it can actually host events that we've never seen before in Reading, which is really exciting. And it doesn't need to displace events that have been there forever. I think both can coexist in that location. And I think the upside is huge. I'm really excited about leading a very transparent, very open process with the community. We work very closely with stakeholders. Again, we listen, we draw, we listen, we draw, and we just keep coming back and we keep showing up until everybody feels like they've gotten what they've put into the process. And then we embrace that and chart a course forward from a design point of view. No, absolutely not. And I think that I've worked in communities large and small. What we have seen be tremendously successful is when there's a true public-private partnership of community members, investment, design, stakeholders, and the city at large to guide a process to think about what's possible. When we design and plan, and if it's just a plan, it may never get built. That's not really what we're interested in. There are times when you do that, you master plan and you create ideas and you think about what's possible. what we've seen be most successful in communities is actually to bring forward a development team where you have everybody at the table, folks that can bring financing, folks that can bring development. The city is absolutely a partner in this because it's city property. The community needs to engage because it's their city, and we want to hear how they'll use the site. We want people to come and use these properties. So we've seen recently projects in Wichita, Kansas, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, riverfront opportunities where communities have really reimagined who they can be and who they can become. And it takes a partnership. It takes private interest. It takes public interest. It takes a transparent process. And as Populous, what we do is we host the process and we make sure that everybody is heard. But we think it's best when there are people at the table that can actually enact the idea that comes out of the process to say, we should do this. And you need to have those partners at the table to actually be able to understand that it's feasible and get it done. Because plans that just sit in a drawer are just that, they're plans. And I think, Reading has been through those processes years and years and decades. And I think what we want to do is we want to make sure that we can do something with the riverfront. And I think to do that well, you have to have a partnership in place to take full advantage of the professionals that can offer their perspective within a transparent, community-focused process. It was a combination of both. A few years ago, when K2 development companies, they've been working on the Market Street project downtown, the Block 7 project, really reimagining the downtown core of Reading. Of course, I'm paying attention as an architect. I'm curious. Market Street has always been something that has been an issue and an opportunity simultaneously in Reading. I remember my grandpa telling me when they closed down Market Street, he thought it would really damage the city, and it did for a long time. And I think that it's really great to see these projects open streets back up, let people flow through the downtown like they should in a robust urban area. And so I've just been around the conversation, and a few years ago, we offered up 10 ideas for the next 10 years of Reading. It was something that I was personally interested in. And we looked at the downtown, we looked at the trail system, we looked at sports, we looked at recreation, we looked at all the things that we do well, we being Populous. And a handful of those ideas really centered on the Civic Center site because it's such an opportunity. It's really the heart of Reading. So when you step back and you look at Reading overall, the center of Reading really is that Park Marina and Northern Riverfront area around the Sundial Bridge. But I also think it's historically the most underutilized. You have a downtown area, you have the east side, you have north and south, but the heart of Reading has gone unused, I think, for too long. And so I was personally interested in ideas. What can happen there? What can fit there? So when you just look at the land, 50 plus acres, you start to drop in amphitheaters, convention centers, community rec centers. All of those things fit. And there's still plenty of room to do other things as well. So from a design perspective, we offered up some ideas to consider. And I think that started to build some momentum. McConnell Foundation has long invested in the area. I think the Sundial Bridge has put Reading on the map globally. It's a beautiful piece of architecture. I go around the world and people know Reading because of the Sundial Bridge, because of the Arboretum. I think those big picture visionary investments are critically important for community and who they can become. And the idea that there is momentum there, there's real momentum around the riverfront, there's momentum in the downtown. And when you realize actually how close they are together, you could walk from downtown Reading to the Civic Center in a few minutes if you had a way to get there. There are all these barriers that are currently in place, the cemetery, the cliffs, the Highway 44. We want to remove barriers and allow people to move through the community in the way that they can, because it really is a small geographical area. And I think it can be something really great if we just connected it and offered up some development and some venues that would really bring people to that place and connect them with the downtown area. I'm a senior principal with Populous. I sit on our global board. I've been extremely fortunate to be successful and having worked in public assembly buildings, and I lead our convention center practice as well. I'm a design director for that aspect of our business. And convention centers are interesting because they are event centers. There are a lot of things that go into those building types. I've also worked in our sports projects and community recreation. We also have an equestrian group. So all the ingredients that are on site at the Civic Center, Populous does those really well. And I've dabbled in a lot of those areas. But I think from a role point of view, I'm a design director for the firm. I'm often out in front leading some of our most complex, large scale projects of scale. And I think what Reading offers from a site point of view, the 50 plus acres is really a complex planning exercise. And I think we can come in and offer some perspective and unique ideas about what can be done there based on what we've done in other places. I'm actually in Kansas City. So yeah, I office in San Francisco. I live in California. I live in the Bay Area. But I come to Kansas City. We have a board meeting today, so I do come here every month. And during the pandemic, I was coming more often because California was shut down. And in Kansas City, we have about 350 people here. It's a great office, lots of excitement, lots of ideas. We work on some pretty amazing projects around the world, and it's really great to be around that energy and the designers that are doing the project. So I like to come back here pretty often. You know, I think that having grown up in Reading, having my family grown up in Reading, and having heard stories about where Reading has been, but where it can go, Reading is a community that years ago has done amazing things. You know, you think of Shasta Dam, you think of the river, you think of what the place can be. There historically, there have been big ideas and big projects, and I think what the Civic Center site offers is an opportunity to continue the momentum. I think we have the right people. I think we have the opportunity. I think we have the right players in the mix to actually do something special and enact it. And I think Reading has suffered in the past from not capitalizing on momentum. And we've seen communities all over the world. Momentum is a very real thing. If you have people that are willing to champion a project, taking advantage of that in an open and transparent process is really a magical thing. When you have the community step up and engage in what's possible, we're so fortunate as Populous, we're so fortunate to work in communities where people care about their future. And they say, hey, I want to see this in my community. And when you have thousands of voices that say what they want, and we're able to capture that in a plan and in a vision, and then enact it with our partners, development partners, bringing on large-scale events projects for communities really transforms the culture of a place. And I think Reading is an amazing place. I grew up there. I love it. It's my home. I think it can be so much more than it is today. And I think it can be one of the most beautiful places in the world. I believe that intently. And I think that we need to continue the momentum and the investment of the people that care in that place being beautiful and being a home for the future, for the next generation. And I'm incredibly excited to be a part of it. I feel incredibly fortunate just to be part of this conversation. But I do think that capitalizing on momentum and interest from community leaders is a very real thing. And I think it's a timely thing.